For 20 years, the internet had one front door. You could hate it, complain about it, mock it, or try to quit it. But sooner or later, you probably walked through that door. You opened a browser, you typed a few words, you pressed enter, and Google told you where to go. That was the deal. Google did not just become a website. It became a habit. It became muscle memory. It became the answer to almost every question people had. Where should I eat? How do I fix this error? What does this symptom mean? Who won the game? How much is this worth? What is the best laptop? How do I start a business? What happened in the news? What does this law mean? How do I write this email? For billions of people, the internet started with a blank search box. And behind that blank box sat one of the most powerful business machines ever built. Google search was not just useful. It was profitable at a scale that almost does not feel real. Google organized the web. Then it organized the ads around the web. Then it became the toll booth between curiosity and commerce. Every question was a signal. Every search was a chance to show an ad. Every click was data. Every business wanted to be found. Every publisher wanted traffic. Every marketer wanted the top spot. Google became the map. And if you control the map, you control where attention flows. That is why search was never just a product. Search was power. But now, for the first time in a long time, the search box looks vulnerable. Not because people stopped asking questions. People asked more questions than ever. The threat is different. The threat is that users may stop wanting 10 blue links. They may stop wanting a page full of results. They may stop wanting to open 5 tabs, dodge pop-ups, scroll past ads, read half-written SEO articles, compare conflicting answers, and piece together the truth themselves. They may want one direct answer. Clear, fast, sorts, readable, useful. That is the opening. And 1A, company has built its entire identity around that opening. Its name is Perplexity. It does not want to be another chatbot. It does not want to be a cute research toy. It does not want to sit politely next to Google as a small alternative for tech people. Perplexity wants to change the basic shape of search. And if it succeeds, the most valuable habit on the internet may never feel the same again. This is the story of the AI company that wants to kill Google's search, not by building a better list of links, by trying to make the list of links feel old. The first thing to understand is that Google did not win because people loved links. Google won because the old internet was a mess. In the late Yojojoling search felt like walking into a giant library where someone had thrown the books across the floor. There were portals. There were directories. There were search engines that could find pages, but not always the right page. The web was growing faster than anyone could organize it by hand. Google's breakthrough was simple to explain and hard to beat. Instead of only looking at the words on a page, Google looked at how pages connected to each other. If many important websites linked to one page, that page was probably important too. This idea helped Google rank the web better than almost everyone else. It made search feel clean. It made the internet feel searchable. It made users trust the box. That trust became priceless. Once users trusted Google, advertisers followed. Once advertisers followed, money flooded in. Once money flooded in, Google could build better infrastructure, better products, better data systems, and better distribution. Search became a loop. More users created more data. More data improved the product. A better product attracted more users. More users attracted more advertisers. More advertisers funded more growth. That loop turned Google into an empire. But every empire has a weakness. Google's weakness is not that it forgot how to search the web. Google is still extremely good at search. The weakness is that the web around Google changed. A lot of pages are no longer written just to help people. They are written to satisfy algorithms. You have seen this? You search for a simple recipe, and the page starts with someone's childhood memory of a tomato. You search for a software fix, and the article gives you 12 paragraphs of filler before the answer. You search for a product recommendation, and half the page is affiliate links. You search for health information, and you get a maze of cautious wording, ads, and competing advice. You search for business data, and the answer is hidden behind a lead form. You search for a quick fact, and the result page feels like a shopping mall. This is the strange tragedy of search. Google made the web findable. Then the web learned it how to perform for Google. That performance became an industry. SEO agencies, affiliate sites, content farms, keyword research tools, backlink campaigns, programmatic landing pages, product review farms, comparison pages, auto-generated articles, thin summaries copied from other thin summaries. The open web did not die, but parts of it became patterned, optimized, and exhausting. Users still used Google because it was the default, but many searches started to feel like work. You were not asking a question and getting an answer. You were starting a small investigation. That frustration created space for a new kind of search experience. Perplexity stepped into that space with a very sharp promise. Ask a question. Get an answer. See the sources. That sounds almost as simple. But simplicity is often how big product shifts begin. The iPhone was not the first phone. It made the old phone feel clumsy. Netflix was not the first way to watch movies. It made the old rental store feel slow. Spotify was not the first way to listen to music. It made downloading and listening files feel outdated. Perplexity is trying to do something similar with search. It is trying to make the old habit feel like extra labor. Why click through 10 results if the answer can be built for you? Why open 5 tabs if the summary can show the useful part? Why scan pages full of ads if the tool can pull the key? Why search with keywords if you can ask a full question? Why start over with a new search if you can ask a follow-up? That is the product argument. But the business argument is much bigger. If the answer engine replaces the search engine, the internet economy changes. Google's search business depends on the result page. Advertisers pay for space near user intent. Publishers fight for visibility. Websites depend on traffic. SEO exists because ranking matters. Brands buy ads because users click. But what happens when users do not click? What happens when the answer sits on the page? What happens when AI reads the web, summarizes the web, cites the web, and keeps the user inside the answer experience? That is where the war begins, because Perplexity is not only competing with Google. It is challenging the bargain that held the web together. The old bargain was simple. Publishers make content. Google indexes it. Users search Google. Google sends traffic to publishers. Publishers monetize the traffic with ads, subscriptions, leads, or sales. That bargain was never perfectly fair. Publishers complained for years that Google had too much power. Google argued it sent valuable traffic, but at least the click existed. The AI search weakens the click. If the user gets enough information from the answer, they may not visit the original article. If they do not visit, the publisher does not get the page view. If the publisher does not get the page view, revenue drops. If revenue drops, the content business gets weaker. If the content business gets weaker, there may be less quality information for AI systems to summarize later. That is the central tension of AI search. It can make the internet easier for users while making the internet harder for the people who create the information. Perplexity sits right in the middle of that tension. Its supporters see it as the future of knowledge. Its critics see it as a machine that benefits from other people's work. Its investors see a chance to attack one of the largest markets in technology. Its enemies see a startup trying to rewrite the rules before anyone can stop it. And Google sees something even more dangerous. A product that changes what users expect. That is how incumbents get hurt. Not all at once. First, users discover a better way to do one thing. Then that better way becomes a habit. Then the old product starts to feel outdated. Then the incumbent has to defend its own business model without breaking it. Google has the technology to build AI answers. In fact, Google has been working on AI for years. But Google also has a giant search ad business to protect. That is the innovator's dilemma in plain English. A new company can attack the old model because it does not have much to lose. The old company has to change carefully because its old model prints money. Perplexity can say the future is answers. Google has to ask, how do we make answers without destroying the economics of search? That is the difference. Perplexity can run toward the future. Google has to move while carrying an empire on its back. The company behind this challenge started small. Perplexity AI was founded in RR during the moment when generative AI was moving from research labs into public life. ChatGPT had changed the mood of the industry. Suddenly, people saw that language models could do more in autocomplete sentences. They could explain, summarize, translate code, draft, and reason in a way that felt almost conversational. But ChatGPT had an obvious weakness. It could sound confident even when it was wrong. It did not always know the latest information. It could give polished answers without showing where the information came from. For casual use, that was fine. For serious research, it was a problem. Perplexity's insight was to combine the conversational feel of A with the live sorts nature of search. Instead of just chatting from memory, the product would search the web, gather information, produce an answer, and show citations. That gave users something powerful. The speed of a chatbot, the freshness of search, the comfort of sources. It was not perfect. No AI system is perfect, but the experience felt different. You could ask, what is the best way to compare these two companies? What are the latest changes in this law? What happened in this earnings report? Why did this startup fail? How does this disease spread? What are the arguments for and against this policy? Summarize the latest news about this company. Instead of giving you a wall of links, Perplexity gave you a starting point. That is important. A lot of search is not about finding one page. It is about understanding a topic. Google was built for navigation and discovery. Perplexity was built for synthesis. Navigation asks, where should I go? Synthesis asks, what does this mean? For years, Google answered both, but the interface was still built around links. Perplexity made synthesis the main product. That is why it became popular with students, researchers, investors, journalists, founders, analysts, and people who live inside information overload. If your job is to understand things quickly, an answer engine feels like a cheat code. It does not eliminate research, but it gives you the first map. And for many users, that first map is enough to change habits. Imagine a venture capitalist looking into a new market. Instead of searching 10 different phrases on Google, they ask Perplexity for the market structure, key companies, recent funding, risks, and source links. Imagine a founder researching competitors. Instead of opening a dozen tabs, they asked for a comparison table, pricing changes, and recent product launches. Imagine a student trying to understand a topic. Instead of clicking through low-quality summaries, they asked for a plain English explanation with citation. Imagine a journalist preparing for an interview. Instead of reading 20 pages from scratch, they asked for a timeline and inspect the sources. Imagine a lawyer, doctor, analyst, or engineer using it as a starting layer. This is the part that makes Google nervous. Perplexity does not need to replace every search. It only needs to win high-value searches first. The searches where people are trying to learn, compare, decide, research, buy, or understand. Those are the searches advertisers care about. Those are the searches professionals care about. Those are the searches that shape business decisions. Google can keep the weather, the sports scores, the restaurant directions, the spelling checks, and the quick facts. But if AI answer engines start winning the research layer, the center of gravity moves. And once professionals change their habits, consumer habits often follow. That is how many tools spread. First they are used by nerds, then by professionals, then by students, then by everyone. Perplexity's challenge is to make that spread happen before Google fully absorbs the same experience into its own product. Because Google is not sleeping. Google has AI Overview. Google has AI Mode. Google has Gemini. Google has Chrome. Google has Android. Google has YouTube. Google has Gmail. Google has Maps. Google has billions of users and decades of search data. Google has relationships with advertisers, device makers. browser partners, and website owners. Perplexity is not fighting a sleepy giant. It is fighting a giant that has seen the threat and is already moving. That is what makes this story so interesting. This is not David versus Goliath, where Goliath does not understand the sling. Goliath owns a sling factory, but David has one advantage. David can aim directly at the weak spot. For Google, AI search is both the future and a threat to the present. For Perplexity, almost searches the whole business. That difference creates speed. Perplexity can try aggressive designs. It can focus the company around answers. It can build a brand around being the anti-Google for research. It can position itself as cleaner, faster, and more direct. It can tell users, we are not here to show you a page of ads. We are here to give you the answer. Whether that message is fully fair is another question. But as a story, it is powerful. And in consumer technology, story matters. Google's story used to be, organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Perplexity's story is, stop searching, start knowing. That is a dangerous story because it attacks the old verb. For years, people said, Google it. Perplexity wants people to stop Googling and start asking. That may sound like a small language change. It is not. When the verb changes, the habit changes. When the habit changes, the business changes. The next search war is not only about who is the best index. It is about who owns the question. Google owned the query. Perplexity wants to own the answer. OpenAI wants to own the assistant. Microsoft wants to own the workday. Apple wants to own the device layer. Browsers want to own the gateway. Publishers want to own the original content. Advertisers want to own intent. Users just want less nonsense. That is the battlefield. And on this battlefield, Perplexity's biggest weapon is clarity. The product is not hard to explain. It is an answer engine. You ask, it answers. It cites. That is easy to understand. The hard part is building the business behind it. Google makes money through ads attached to search intent. That model is proven, that's, and incredibly profitable. Perplexity started with subscriptions, especially for users willing to pay for better models, more usage, and advanced features. It has also experimented with advertising, publisher partnerships, enterprise products, and browser-like experiences. That creates a big question. Can an answer engine become a business as large as a search engine? Subscriptions are clean but limited. Ads are huge but risky. Enterprise can pay well, but may not build a consumer habit. Publisher revenue sharing can reduce conflict but lowers margin. Commerce partnerships can make money, but may damage trust if users think recommendations are paid. Every path is a problem. If Perplexity relies heavily on subscriptions, it may build a strong business, but not a Google-sized business. If it relies heavily on ads, it may become the thing it was trying to replace. If it answers questions without sending enough traffic, publishers may sue or block it. If it sends too much traffic away, users may feel it is less convenient. If it gives short answers, it may be shallow. If it gives long answers, it may feel like homework. If it cites too little, it loses trust. If it cites too much, it starts looking like search again. This is the tightrope. The answer engine wants to remove friction, but the web economy is made of friction. Clicks are friction. Pages are friction. Ads are friction. Paywalls are friction. Forms are friction. Affiliate links are friction. SEO paragraphs are friction. Remove too much friction, and users are happy. Remove too much friction, and the people funding the web get angry. That is why Perplexity has been controversial. News organizations have accused it of using their content too aggressively. Some publishers have said it summarizes reporting without giving enough value back. There have been lawsuits and legal threats. Perplexity has argued that it cites sources, indexes the web, and wants to work with publishers. This conflict is not a side plot. It is the main plot, because the company that wants to kill Google search still needs the web that Google helped organize. If Perplexity cannot maintain trust with publishers, it may face legal, reputational, and technical problems. If publishers block AI crawlers or demand payments, costs rise. If the best sources disappear from AI answer engine, answer quality drops. If answer quality drops, users return to Google or another competitor. So the business is not just about AI models. It is about rights, economics, and trust. This is why Perplexity has tried publisher programs and revenue-sharing ideas. It needs a new bargain. The old bargain was search traffic. The new bargain might be answer attribution, revenue share, licensing, or premium content access. Nobody fully knows what the final model will be, but one thing is clear. As search breaks the old assumption. To publishers, this is terrifying. For users, it is convenient. For startups, it is opportunity. For Google, it is a strategic emergency. The publisher fight also exposes something uncomfortable about Google. For years, publishers complained about Google taking too much value from the web, but they still needed Google because Google sent traffic. Now that AI summaries can answer without a click, publishers worry that the traffic will shrink even more. Google is facing this pressure too. AI overviews and AI mode can also reduce clicks. Regulators have started paying attention. The debate is no longer just about one startup. It is about the future of the open web. As AI systems become the main way people consume information, who pays for the reporting? Who pays for the expert writing? Who pays for the reviews? Research investigations, explainers, and databases? Who pays for the content that makes the answers possible? A search engine could say, "We send users to you." An answer engine has to say, "We used you to answer the user." That is a different relationship, and it is much harder to defend. This is why Perplexity's fight is bigger than perplexity. It represents a new interface for the internet. The interface is not a page. It is a conversation. The user does not browse. The user asks. The machine does not list. The machine explains. That sounds cleaner, but it concentrates power. If people stop visiting websites and start trusting answer engines, the answer engine becomes the judge of reality. It decides which sources to use. It decides what to summarize. It decides what to leave out. It decides how confident the answer sounds. It decides which citation appears first. It decides whether the user sees the original context. That is an enormous responsibility. Google already had too much power, critics argued. AI on their engines may concentrate even more. At least with traditional search, users could see many links and choose. With AI answers, the first response may shape the user's entire understanding. This is convenient. It is also dangerous. A wrong answer can spread quietly. A missing detail can change a conclusion. A bias or mix can shape opinion. A hallucinated claim can look credible if written smoothly. A citation can exist but not. This is why the answer engine must earn trust every day. The product experience feels simple. The trust problem is not simple at all. Perplexity has tried to solve trust through citations. That is smart. Citations give users a path back to the source. They also make the answer feel less like a magic, but citations are not a cure-all. A citation can be weak. A source can be wrong. An answer can misread the source. A summary can flatten nuance. A user may not click the citation at all. Most people do not fact-check a tool they believe is saving them time. They accept the answer and move on. That is both the power and danger of the product. The more useful it feels, the less users check it. The less users check it, the more trust matters. This is why killing Google search is not just about stealing traffic. It is about replacing a trust habit. People trust Google in a strange way. They do not trust every result, but they trust the process enough to begin there. Perplexity has to build a similar habit. It needs users to think, when I need to understand something, I ask Perplexity first. That is the real goal. Not to be a neat app, not to be a clever chatbot, to become the first stop for curiosity. That is why the company matters. The front door to the internet is being redesigned. For a long time, the front door was a search bar. Now it might be an answer box. Tomorrow it might be an agent that researches, compares, buys, schedules, and acts for you. Search is not the final form. Search may be the beginning of a larger assistant economy. That is where the story gets even bigger. A traditional search engine helps you find information. An answer engine helps you understand information. An AI agent helps you do something with information. Perplexity has already moved in that direction through products that do more than answer simple queries. Google is moving there too. OpenAI is moving there. Microsoft is moving there. Every major AI company understands the same thing. The money is not only in answering questions. The money is in becoming the layer between user intent and action. If you ask, what laptop should I buy for video editing under $1,500? A search engine gives links. An answer engine compares options. An agent could check prices, read reviews, find deals, verify inventory, apply coupons, and purchase. If you ask, plan a 3-day trip to Lisbon. A search engine gives travel blogs. An answer engine suggests an itinerary. An agent could book flights, hotels, restaurants, and museum tickets. If you ask, find me 5 sales leads in this industry and draft outreach. A search engine gives databases and articles. An answer engine explains the market. An agent builds the list, writes the emails, and logs them into your CRM. That is why search is so strategic. Search is where intent begins. Whoever captures intent can move downstream into ads, commerce, software, and services. Google understood this earlier than almost anyone. That is why search became so valuable. Perplexity understands it too. The search query is not just a request for information. It is a signal of desire. A person asking best CRM for small business may buy software. A person asking how to file an LLC may buy legal services. A person asking best running shoes for knee pain may buy a product. A person asking how to lower cloud costs may buy consulting. A person asking compare health insurance plans may be worth a lot to advertisers. Google monetized that desire with ads. The next generation may monetize it with recommendations, subscriptions, transactions, and agents. That is why investors care. Perplexity is not just building a search app. It is competing for one of the most valuable coins in the digital economy. The moment before a decision, that moment is gold. Before you buy, before you subscribe, before you invest, before you travel, before you choose a doctor, before you choose a school, before you choose software, before you choose a lawyer, before you choose a product. Search captures that moment. An answer engine wants to own it more directly. But owning that moment creates another trust problem. If the answer engine recommends something, why did it recommend it? Was it the best option? Was it sponsored? Was it influenced by a partnership? Was it based on incomplete information? Was it optimized for the user or for the platform? Google had the same issue with ads, but ads were visually separated. Not always perfectly, but the concept was clear. Gully answers blur the line. If a recommendation appears inside natural language answer, advertising can feel less like an ad and more like advice. That can be powerful. It can also be dangerous. The future of AI search will depend heavily on disclosure and trust. Users may tolerate ads. They may tolerate sponsored results. They may tolerate commerce links. That they will punish products that feel secretly manipulated. Perplexity's brand is built around direct. If users feel the answers are being quietly shaped by money, the brand gets weaker. So the company has to build a business without destroying the reason people came to it. That is the same trap Google faces, but in a new form. Google's result page became crowded because money wanted to be near intent. Perplexity's answer page will face the same pressure. Every startup begins clean. Every monetized platform eventually gets tempted. The question is whether Perplexity can resist becoming an AI-powered version of the clutter it was created to escape. That may be the company's deepest challenge. Killing Google search is not only about beating Google. It is about not becoming Google too quickly. There is another angle people often miss. Google search is not just a consumer product. It is infrastructure for businesses. Millions of companies depend on Google for discovery. Restaurants depend on maps and local search. E-commerce brands depend on product search. Publishers depend on search traffic. Software companies depend on search ads. Agencies depend on SEO. Affiliate marketers depend on rankings. Consultants depend on inbound leads. Review sites depend on comparison queries. If AI answer engines change user behavior, entire industries have to adjust. SEO becomes a GLLMO or whatever acronym marketers invent next. Instead of ranking as a blue link, companies want to be mentioned in AI answers. Instead of optimizing only pages, they optimize reputation. Structured data, expert mentions, reviews, citation, and source authority. Instead of asking, how do we rank on Google? They ask, how do we become the answer? That is a huge business shift. A travel site that used to fight for page one now has to fight to be included in an AI itinerary. A software company that used to buy Google Ads now has to figure out why Perplexity recommends a competitor. A product review site that used to collect affiliate clicks may lose users who get a summarized comparison. A publisher that relied on search traffic may need licensing deals or direct subscription. A brand may care less about keyword rankings and more about whether answer engines understand it correctly. This is how a new interface creates a new marketing industry. Google created SEO. AI search creates answer optimization. And wherever marketers go, money follows. That means Perplexity will not stay clean forever. The moment it becomes influential, companies will try to influence it. They will create content designed for AI systems. They will flood the web with structured answers. They will try to become cited sources. They will monitor AI responses. They will sue over incorrect claims. They will pay consultants to improve their visibility. They may try to game the system. This is the irony. AI search was partly born because the web became over-optimized for Google. If AI search becomes important, the web will become optimized for AI search too. The spam will evolve. The content farms will evolve. The manipulation will evolve. Perplexity is not only competing with Google, it is competing with the incentives that made Google messy. That is a much harder enemy. The company's dream is a cleaner internet experience. But the internet is not clean because money does not stay clean. Where attention goes, manipulation follows. So Perplexity's long-term quality will depend on how well it filters the web. That is not easy. Google spent decades fighting spam. It still struggles. AI systems will face the same problem, but with higher stakes because their answers sound more authoritative. If a spammy page ranks on Google, a user might ignore it. If an AI summarizes spam into a confident answer, the user may never see the weakness. That is why search quality is not just about language models. It is about source selection. The model is the mouth. The search system is the supply chain. Bad sources in, bad answer out. And when the answer is polished, that information becomes harder to detect. This is one reason Google has an advantage. Google has massive search infrastructure indexing system, ranking signals, spam detection, user behavior data, and relationships across the web. Perplexity is focus and speed, but Google is scale and history. The battle is not obvious. Perplexity can feel better for certain searches. Google can improve AI answers and keep distribution. OpenAI can make search part of ChatGPT. Microsoft can combine Bing, Copilot, and enterprise tools. Apple can decide what users see on devices. Browsers can become AI assistants. Publishers can form deals or build walls. The future may not have one winner, but the old world where Google search sits alone at the center is already under pressure. That alone is a major shift. For years, people said Google would be almost impossible to beat because search had such strong network effects and default distribution. Then AI changed the product expectation. The threat is not a better search engine. The threat is a different category. That is how giants often get attacked. They do not lose because someone copies them perfectly. They lose ground because the user's job changes. People did not want a better DVD rental store. They wanted streaming. People did not want a better taxi dispatch system. They wanted a button that summoned a ride. People did not want a better classified newspaper. They wanted searchable online listing. People may not want a better search result page. They may want answers, summaries, and agents. That is why Google has responded aggressively. Though AI overviews bring generated answers into traditional search, table is Google closer to a conversational research experience. Gemini connects Google search with broad array capabilities. Google is trying to change the product before someone else changes it. This is both smart and risky. If Google moves too slowly, Perplexity and others gain min share. If Google moves too quickly, it may reduce clicks, upset publishers, confuse users, and disrupt its ad machine. If Google answers too much directly, websites lose traffic. If it answers too little, users go elsewhere. If AI answers are wrong, trust suffers. If AI answers are good, old search economics weaken. Google is trapped by its own success. It has to defend the old castle while building the new one. Perplexity has no castle. It also makes it more fragile. A startup can move faster because it is not protecting billions in legacy revenue. But it also has less distribution, less infrastructure, less data, less trust, and less room for error. If Perplexity makes big mistakes, users can leave. If it faces expensive lawsuits, investors may worry. If Google copies the best features well enough, mainstream users may never switch. That OpenAI integrates search deeply into ChatGPT, Perplexity may get squeezed. If Apple chooses another default AI search partner, distribution becomes harder. If publishers block it, answer quality suffers. If monetization gets messy, trust falls. This is not an easy battle. The title says wants to kill Google search. Wanting is not the same as winning. But wanting matters because it reveals the ambition. Perplexity is not trying to be a feature. It is trying to be a habit. That is the correct level of ambition if you want to attack search. Search is not won by being interesting. It is won by being the first place people go without thinking. That is the mountain. To climb it, Perplexity needs several things at once. It needs answer quality that feels reliable. It needs speed. It needs fresh information. It needs trusted sources. It needs a clean interface. It needs mobile habit. It needs browser habits. It needs enterprise use. It needs publisher relationships. It needs monetization that does not poison Rust. It needs brand clarity. It needs enough differentiation from ChatGPT, Google, and Bing. That is a lot. But every major platform story begins with something that sounds impossible. A search startup taking on Yahoo once sounded strange. A social network for college students becoming a global identity layer sounded strange. A bookstore becoming the cloud backbone of the internet sounded strange. A phone company without a keyboard beating BlackBerry sounded strange. A short video app shaping global culture sounded strange. The mistake is not believing every challenger will win. The mistake is assuming the incumbent cannot be challenged because it has always been powerful. Google is powerful, but user habits can change. The key question is what people do when they want knowledge. If the answer is still Google it, Google remains the center. If the answer becomes ask an AI, the center moves. If the answer becomes let my agent handle it, search becomes even less visible. Perplexity is trying to move us from Googling to asking. That is the real attack. Not on the company name, on a behavior. There is a reason the company calls itself an answer engine. The word engine matters. A search engine finds. An answer engine resolves. An agent engine acts. Each step moves closer to the user's goal. The old web made users do much of the work. Type keyword, open links, compare pages, evaluate sources, extract the answer, decide what to do next. AI systems try to absorb that work. That is why users like them. But the more work the machine absorbs, the more power the machine gains. That is the trade. Convenience for control. Every major consumer platform, Google made the web convenient. In return, it became the gateway. Facebook made social connection convenient. In return, it controlled the feed. Amazon made shopping convenient. In return, it controlled the marketplace. TikTok made entertainment convenient. In return, it controlled the attention loop. Perplexity wants to make knowledge convenient. If it succeeds, it may control more of the information journey. That is why this is not a small startup story. It is a platform story. The question is whether users, publishers, regulators, and competitors will accept a new gateway. Regulators are already watching Google because of its power in search. They are also watching AI search because it may reshape competition and intent markets. In the United States, Google search dominance has already been challenged in court. In the United Kingdom, regulators have pushed for publishers to have more control over how their content appears in AI search features. These legal and regulatory fights show that search is no longer treated as a simple product. It is infrastructure. It is competition. It is media policy. It is advertising. It is consumer protection. It is the future of information. Perplexity is entering that world at high speed. That is exciting. It is also dangerous. A small company can build a beloved product. A company trying to replace search becomes part of a much larger argument about who controls knowledge. That argument will not be settled by product design alone. It will involve courts, copyright law, publisher deals, browser defaults, mobile platforms, and data access, advertising rules, and public trust. In other words, the search war is going to be messy. But from the user's point of view, the reason this all began is very simple. Search started to feel tiring. That is the emotional truth behind the business story. People do not wake up thinking about market structure. They think, I just want the answer. Perplexity built around that feeling, and that is why it spread. The product did not ask users to learn a new workflow. It reduced the old one. That is what the best consumer products do. They remove steps. Google removed the step of browsing random directories. Uber removed the step of calling a taxi company. Netflix removed the step of going to the rental store. Amazon removed the step of driving to many shops. Perplexity tries to remove the step of manually assembling information from search results. Remove a step, and users notice. Remove enough steps, and behavior changes. The danger for Perplexity is that answers are not always enough. Sometimes users want exploration. Sometimes they want original reporting. Sometimes they want opinions from real people. Sometimes they want images, videos, maps, forums, shopping pages, and local context. Sometimes they do not trust a summary. Sometimes the journey matters. Google search is messy partly because human curiosity is messy. A clean answer box can be wonderful for direct questions. But the web is not only a database. It is a place. It has communities, creators, weird blogs, expert forums, product pages, arguments, videos, maps, documents, and first-hand experiences. A list of links can be annoying. It can also show diversity. An AI answer can be elegant. It can also flatten the world. That is a real product challenge. Perplexity must avoid turning every search into a school report. The best version of AI search should answer when an answer is right, explore when exploration is right, and step back when the user needs original sources. That balance is hard. If the tool becomes too confident, it may mislead. If it becomes too cautious, it becomes less useful. If it becomes too short, it lacks depth. If it becomes too long, it overwhelms. If it becomes too sorts, it feels like homework. If it becomes unsorts, it loses trust. Great search products are not just about information. They are about pacing. They know when to give a quick answer. They know when to show options. They know when to send the user away. They know when to ask a follow-up question. They know when not to pretend. This is where the next search war may be won. Not by the model with the fanciest demo, by the product that understands user intent better. Google has spent decades learning intent. Perplexity has built a fresh interface for intent. OpenAI has a conversational relationship with users. Apple has device context. Microsoft has work context. Each player has a different advantage. Perplexity's advantage is focus. It can say, "We are the place for answers." That clear identity helps users remember it. But focus can become a constraint. If search becomes agents, can Perplexity move fast enough? If answers become a feature inside every assistant, can Perplexity stay distinct? If Google makes AI mode good enough, will users bother switching? If ChatGPT search becomes good enough, will users need Perplexity separately? These are the strategic questions. The company has to build a brand stronger than a feature, because features get copied. Habits are harder to copy. Trust is harder still. That is why Perplexity needs to become more than Google with AI answer. It needs to become a place people associate with clear, trustworthy understanding. That is a high bar. But if it reaches that bar, the reward is enormous. Search is one of the largest markets in technology because it's at the beginning of demand. A tiny shift in search behavior can move billions of dollars. A small change in click-through rates can hurt publishers. A new default can reshape advertising. A new answer format can create new winners and losers. This is why the story feels like a business. A startup with a clean interface walks into a market ruled by one of the richest companies on Earth. The old king has the users, the data, the distribution, and the money. The challenger has a new behavior. The publishers are angry. The regulators are watching. The advertisers are confused. The users are curious. The entire web is waiting to see what happens to the click. That is the battle. Not a battle for one app. A battle for the future of asking questions online. Now, to understand why Perplexity could matter, we need to understand what Google's search really became. Google is often described as a search company, but for many years, Google's search was also an auction house for human attention. A user typed a query. Advertisers bid for that intent. Google placed ads near organic results. Users clicked. Businesses paid. Google took the money. This model worked because intent is valuable. A person searching best accounting software is more valuable than a person casually scrolling a feed. A person searching emergency plumber near me is extremely valuable. A person searching car insurance quote is valuable. A person searching mortgage rates is valuable. Search ads are powerful because the user already wants something. Social media advertising often has to create desire. Search advertising catches desire in the act. That is why Google search ads became such a monster business. But AI answers complicate advertising. Where do ads go in a direct answer? At the top? Inside the answer? Below it? As sponsored citations. As recommended products. As follow-up prompts. As agent actions. Each option changes the user experience. If ads are too visible, the product feels like Google again. If ads are too hidden, trust breaks. If there are no ads, the business may be smaller. If ads influence answers, regulators may care. If ads do not influence answers, advertisers may pay less. This is one reason Perplexity's business model is so important. It is not enough to build a better search experience. The company has to build a better search business. Google's search business was beautiful because it matched user intent with advertiser demand at massive scale. Perplexity's answer business has to do something similar without making the answer feel corrupt. That is not impossible, but it is delicate. Imagine a Perplexity answer to, what is the best project management tool for a 20-person agency? If the answer recommends 3 tools, those recommendations may influence real purchases. Software companies would love to appear there. They may pay for visibility, but users need to know whether the answer is neutral. This is where AI search could become more controversial than traditional search. A blue link ad is one thing. A machine giving advice is another. Advice carries authority. If an AI says, for your situation, choose this, that makes monetization more powerful and more risky. The companies that solve this will make enormous money. The companies that get it wrong will lose trust. Perplexity's current brand is closer to research than shopping. That helps. But if the company wants Google-sized revenue, commercial queries will matter. And commercial queries are where trust gets tested hardest. Google knows this world very well. Google can place ads, measure conversions, and optimize auctions with extreme sophistication. Perplexity will have to learn this while defending its identity. The search war is not only technology, it is advertising design. Another hidden advantage Google has is default behavior. Most people do not choose search engines every day. Their browser chooses. Their phone chooses. Their operating system chooses. Their habits choose. Google pays huge amounts of money to remain the default in key places. That default position has been central to antitrust scrutiny. Defaults are powerful because most people do not change settings. A better product can still lose if it is not where the user already is. Perplexity understands this, which is why distribution matters so much. An app is not enough. A browser extension is not enough. A mobile app is not enough. A partnership can change everything. If Perplexity gets placed inside a browser, phone assistant, or device ecosystem, its chances improve. If it remains something users must intentionally open, growth is harder. This is why Apple matters. This is why browsers matter. This is why mobile apps matter. This is why enterprise deals matter. Search is a habit, but it is also real estate. Where is the search box? Who owns the default? What happens when you type in the address bar? What opens when you long press a button? What assistant answers when you speak? What tool appears in the workplace? These distribution points decide the future. Google's dominance was not only about quality. It was also about being everywhere. Perplexity needs to become easier to reach. That is why the company has explored browser-like products and deeper workflow. If it can become the place where users ask, browse, and act, it gains more chances to build habit. But building a browser is hard. Changing default behavior is hard. Competing with Chrome, Safari, Edge, and mobile operating systems is hard. This is why the search war may depend on alliances. Perplexity may need partners. Google already has ecosystem. OpenAI may partner with device makers. Microsoft owns Edge and Windows distribution. Apple can choose which AI services get surfaced to its users. The company that wins may not be the one with the best answer alone. It may be the one with the best answer plus the best access to users. That is how platform wars work. The best product does not always win. The most available product often does. Perplexity's challenge is to be both. Better enough for people to switch. Available enough for switching to be easy. That is hard but not impossible. People do change habits when the improvement is obvious. They switched from Yahoo to Google. They switched from cable bundles to streaming. They switched from taxis to ride-hailing. They switched from desktop software to cloud app. They switched from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok for different attention habits. They switched from typing short keywords to asking ChatGPT full questions. Behavior can change quickly when the payoff is clear. For Perplexity, the payoff is time. Less time searching. Less time opening tabs. Less time separating useful information from filler. Less time wondering which source to trust. Time is the product. The company's real promise is not better search. It is faster understanding. That is a strong promise because modern life is overloaded with information. People are drowning in tabs, notifications, documents, feeds, articles, PDFs, dashboards, and messages. A tool that can reduce that chaos is valuable. This is why the professional use case is so important. A casual user may not pay for search. A professional may pay to save hours. If Perplexity becomes a research assistant for people whose time is valuable, it can build a real subscription business. Investors, consultants, lawyers, analysts, founders, journalists, students, engineers, and executives all have information-heavy workflows. Google search is free because ads pay. Perplexity can charge because it saves time directly. That is a different economic model. Maybe the future is both. Free AI search for casual users with ads. Paid answer engines for professionals. Enterprise research tools for companies. Publisher partnerships for premium sources. agents for transactions and workflow automation. The search market may fragment. Google may remain the mass market default. Perplexity may win high-intent research. OpenAI may win conversational assistant search. Specialized tools may win finance, law, medicine, science, and enterprise knowledge. Privacy-first search may win users who dislike AI summaries. The old search monopoly could become a search ecosystem. That would still be a major change. Killing Google search does not have to mean Google disappears. It could mean Google stops being the only mental model. For Google, that is still a threat. The monopoly of habit is incredibly valuable. Once users learn to ask other tools first, Google's grip weakens. Even small shifts can matter. If users keep going to Google for simple searches but use Perplexity for deeper research, Google loses some of the most valuable engagement. If professionals build workflows around Perplexity, it becomes harder to pull them back. If students grow up asking AI answer engines instead of searching links, the next generation's habit changes. If browsers place AI answer tools closer to users, the search bar loses power. If agents complete tasks without traditional search, the query disappears entirely. The most dangerous competitor is not always the one taking the largest share today. It is the one changing what the product means tomorrow. Perplexity is trying to change search from a place you go to a service that thinks with you. That is the ambition. Now, let us talk about the name. Perplexity is a strange word for a consumer company. It means confusion, uncertainty, a state of being puzzled. In machine learning, perplexity also has a technical meaning related to how well a model predicts language. As a brand, it is unusual. Google sounded strange once too. Yahoo sounded strange. Spotify sounded strange. TikTok sounded strange. Names become normal when habits form. But Perplexity's name also fits the problem. The internet is perplexing. Modern information is perplexing. The company promises to reduce perplexity. Whether that was the intent or not, it works as a story. The product enters when the user is confused. It tries to make the world clearer. That is emotionally powerful. Good products often attach themselves to a feeling. Google attached itself to curiosity. Amazon attached itself to convenience. Uber attached itself to immediacy. TikTok attached itself to boredom. Perplexity wants to attach itself to confusion. You are confused. Ask Perplexity. That is a real habit if it works. But confusion is also where people are vulnerable. When users are confused, they may trust the first confident explanation they see. This puts even more responsibility on answer engine. A wrong answer during confusion can be worse than no answer. That is why search must be judged by more than speed. It has to be judged by accuracy, sourcing, transparency, and humility. Humility may sound strange in a business documentary, but it matters. The best answer engine should know when it does not know. It should say when sources disagree. It should show uncertainty. It should separate facts from interpretation. It should avoid pretending a messy topic is simple. Traditional search push that work onto users. AI search takes on part of that work. With power comes duty. Users want simple answers. Reality is often not simple. The companies that handle this tension well will earn trust. The companies that oversimplify everything may win clicks but lose credibility. This matters especially in high-stakes categories: health, finance, law, politics, safety, news, science, education. If AI search becomes the default interface for these topics, mistakes can have real consequences. Google has dealt with this for years through ranking systems and quality guidelines. Perplexity and other answer engines have to build their own versions of trust and safety. But unlike traditional search, answer engines write the response. That makes them feel more responsible. If Google shows you a bad link, you may blame the website. If Perplexity gives you a bad answer, you may blame Perplexity. That is another cost of moving from links to answers. More convenience, more liability. This is one reason startups attacking search face a different risk profile than old search engines did. They are not merely pointing. they are speaking. And when a platform speaks, people ask who gave it the right. This is why the public conversation around AI search can become intense. Some people love the convenience. Some fear the loss of source traffic. Some fear misinformation. Some fear monopoly power. Some fear the collapse of the open web. Some just want better answers. All of these reactions are rational from different positions. The user wants speed. The publisher wants survival. The advertiser wants intent. The startup wants growth. The incumbent wants defense. The regulator wants competition and fairness. The worker wants clarity. The internet wants a business model that does not eat itself. Perplexity is not solving one problem. It is stepping into all of them. That is why the company feels bigger than its user count. It is a symbol of a new direction. A future where the web is not browsed as much as it is summarized. A future where the first answer comes from a machine. A future where sources compete to be cited by AI. A future where search traffic becomes less predictable. A future where the line between research, recommendation, and action blurs. This is the future Google is trying to shape before someone else does. The irony is that Google's own success helped create the conditions for perplexity. Google trained the world to expect instant access to information. Then the web optimized itself around Google. Then the search experience became crowded. Then AI arrived with a cleaner interface. Then users realized the old way had friction they no longer wanted. This happens often. A platform teaches users a behavior. Then a new technology removes the next layer of friction. Then the old platform looks slow by comparison. Google once made portals feel old. Perplexity wants to make search results feel old. That is the cycle. But Google is not Yahoo. Google has the talent, money, infrastructure, and urgency to fight back. It also has an enormous brand advantage. For many users, Google still works. It is fast. It is familiar. It is integrated. It is trusted enough. Most people do not switch unless they feel pain. So Perplexity has to focus on searches where pain is obvious. Research-heavy queries, complex questions, comparisons, current events, market analysis, learning, professional work, technical explanations, long-tail questions, questions where keyword search feels awkward. That is where answer engines shine. If you ask, what are the main arguments against this new regulation? And who benefits from it? A list of links may be tiring. An answer engine can organize the debate. If you ask, compare the business models of OpenAI, Anthropic, and Perplexity. A list of links gives fragments. An answer engine can build a framework. If you ask, summarize the latest developments in Google antitrust cases and explain what they mean for AI search. A traditional search session may take time. An answer engine can give a starting brief. These are the cracks. Perplexity does not need to win pizza near me tomorrow. It needs to win help me understand this complicated thing. That is a valuable wedge. From there, it can expand. This is classic startup strategy. Find a job the incumbent does poorly. Serve a passionate group. Build habit. Expand outward. But expansion is where the fight gets harder. The more Perplexity moves toward mainstream search, the more it faces Google's strengths, local search, maps, shopping, images, videos, news, flights, restaurants, real-time data, personalization, device integration, payments, ads, spam fighting. Search is not one product. It is a bundle of many products. Google search is not just 10 links. It is whether maps, videos, snippets, shopping boxes, knowledge panels, local packs, images, news, flights, reviews, and ads. Replacing that entire surface is extremely hard. So the realistic version of the story is not that Perplexity deletes Google overnight. The realistic version is that it unbundles search. Users may use different tools for different question types. Google for navigation and local. Perplexity for research. ChatGPT for conversational work. YouTube for how to video. Made It for human opinions. Amazon for shopping. TIKTOK for discovery, specialized tools for finance, law, code, medicine, and travel. Google's danger is not a single assassin. It is fragmentation. Perplexity is one of the sharpest pieces of that fragmentation. That may still be enough to hurt, because Google depends on being the default starting point. If users develop the habit of starting elsewhere for valuable queries, the monopoly of attention weakens. That is the part investors are betting on. They are not only betting that Perplexity becomes big, they are betting that search is being redefined. When a market is redefined, small companies can become surprisingly important. But the risks are just as large. AI search is expensive. Every answer may involve model calls, retrieval, ranking, summarization, and sometimes multiple searches. Traditional search also costs money, but Google's infrastructure is optimized at enormous scale. Others can cost more per querying, especially when using advanced. That means unit economics matter. Can Perplexity serve users profitably? Can subscriptions cover heavy usage? Can ads or commerce support free users? Can costs fall fast enough? Can open source models reduce dependency? Can caching help? Can the company route easier questions to cheaper systems? Can it serve enterprise users at healthy margins? These are not exciting questions for viewers, but they decide whether the company survives. Many AI products are impressive demos with ugly economics. A product can be loved and still lose money on heavy users. A startup can grow fast and still depend on investor funding. A company can raise huge valuations and still need a path to profit. Perplexity's challenge is to turn usage into durable revenue. Google already did that. That is why the comparison is so hard. To kill Google search, a company must beat not just a product, but an economic engine. Google's engine is mature. Perplexity's engine is still being built. That is not an insult. Every new platform starts that way. But it means the Google killer story should be watched with clear eyes. Many companies have been called Google killers. Almost all failed. Bing did not kill Google. DuckDuckGo did not kill Google. Neeva tried subscription search and shut down. Various privacy engines, vertical search products, and AI tools have challenged pieces of Google without replacing the whole. What makes this time different is generative AI. For the first time, the product experience itself can shift from retrieval to synthesis. That is a deeper change than a new ranking algorithm or cleaner privacy policy. Still, a deeper change does not guarantee a new winner. Google can copy. Users can stay. Economics can bite. Lawyers can slow things down. Publishers can resist. AI errors can damage trust. The story is open, and that is why it is worth watching. There is a scene that captures the whole conflict. A user asks a question. Google gives a page with AI summary, links, ads, videos, and related searches. Perplexity gives a direct answer with citation. ChatGPT gives a conversational response and offers to go deeper. A browser assistant offers to compare sources. A publisher wants the user to click the original article. An advertiser wants to appear near the decision. A regulator wonders whether anyone is abusing power. One question. Many businesses fighting for the moment. That is the future of search. The user's question has become contested territory. The old internet gave you links. The new internet gives you answers. The next internet may give you actions. Each layer is more powerful than the last. Perplexity is standing at the answer layer. That is a valuable position, but it may also be a temporary layer if agents become dominant. If an AI assistant can answer, browse, plan, buy, and execute, then a standalone answer engine may need to become an agent platform. This is why Perplexity cannot stand still. No AI company can. The ground keeps moving. In the old software world, a company could build a product and improve it slowly. In the AI world, capabilities change every few months. A feature that looked magical in January can look normal by June. A startup advantage can disappear when a big model provider releases an update. A user experience innovation can be copied quickly. A distribution deal can shift the market overnight. This makes the search war more volatile. The winner may not be the company with the best product today. It may be the company that adapts fastest while building trust. Trust plus speed. That is rare. Google is trust and scale. Perplexity is speed and focus. OpenAI has user attention and model strength. Microsoft has enterprise distribution. Apple has devices and privacy positioning. Publishers have content. Regulators have power. Users have the final habit. The outcome depends on how these forces interact. If Perplexity becomes trusted, widely distributed, and economically sustainable, it can become a major new gateway. If Google makes AI search excellent without breaking its business, it can absorb the threat. If ChatGPT becomes the default place to ask everything, Perplexity may be squeezed. If publishers force paid licensing across the industry, costs rise for everyone. If users reject AI summaries for sensitive topics, traditional search remains important. If young users grow up asking AI first, the shift accelerates. None of this is settled, but one thing is already true. The search page is no longer sacred. For years, Google could redesign pieces of search, but the basic ideas stayed the same. You search, Google returns results. You click, AI breaks that rhythm. You ask, the machine answers. Maybe you click. Maybe you do not. Maybe the machine asks a follow-up. Maybe it takes an action. Maybe the entire session never becomes a website that breaks old measurements. It breaks SEO assumptions. It breaks publisher expectations. It breaks ad placement. It breaks user habits. This is why the phrase "kill Google" search is more than hype. It does not necessarily mean killing Google the company. It means killing the old search behavior. Perplexity wants to be part of that. The company is trying to make search feel like a conversation with a smart researcher instead of a scavenger hunt. That is a compelling idea. But the real test is whether it can scale without losing what made it attractive. Can it stay clean when advertisers arrive? Can it stay trusted when publishers fight back? Can it stay accurate when the web is messy? Can it stay distinct when Google and OpenAI copy the interface? Can it stay useful when users ask harder questions? Can it become a habit for hundreds of millions of people? That is the cliffhanger. The search war is not decided by one viral product launch. It is decided by millions of boring moments. A student chooses Perplexity instead of Google. A founder asks it. A journalist uses it for background. A consultant uses it for a client brief. A shopper asks it for a comparison. A worker asks it to summarize a policy. A browser places it one-click closer. A publisher signs a deal. Another publisher sues. Google changes its results page again. Users complain. Users adapt. The habit shifts by 1 inch. That is how empires are challenged. Slowly at first, then in ways that seem obvious in hindsight. If Perplexity wins, people may one day say it was obvious that search would become answers. If it fails, people may say it was obvious that Google had too much distribution and too much money. Both stories will sound smart later. Right now, we are living before the outcome. That is the exciting part. Because for the first time in years, search feels alive again. Not settled. Not boring. Not just a box at the top of the internet. It feels contested. The front door is being rebuilt while everyone is still walking through it. And the company at the center of this story is betting that the next front door will not say search. It will say asked. Think about what that means for a second. If the internet becomes something you ask instead of something you search, the user relationship changes. A search engine is a tool. An answer engine feels like an advisor. An agent feels like an employee. Each step makes the system more personal. Each step makes the platform. Each step raises the stakes. Google ruled the age of links. Perplexity is fighting for the age of answers. And the age after that may belong to whoever can turn answers into action. This is why the battle matters. Not because one startup has a cool interface. Not because people are tired of SEO spam. Not because investors love AI. It matters because the way we find information shapes the way we understand the world. When the interface changes, knowledge changes. When knowledge changes, business changes. When business changes, power changes. Google understood that early. Now Perplexity is trying to prove that the next version belongs to someone else. At the start of this story, the internet had one front door. Maybe it still does. But for the first time in a long time, there is a line outside another door. It is smaller. It is newer. It is controversial. It is imperfect. It is ambitious enough to sound ridiculous. And on that door, the sign does not say, "Here are 10 links." It says, "Ask anything." That is the challenge. That is the threat. And that is why the company trying to kill Google search may be one of the most important to our businesses to watch. Because if users stop searching the old way, Google does not just lose queries. The web loses its old map. And whoever draws the next map will have power over everything that comes after. Now let us go one layer deeper into the most important business question. Can Perplexity kill Google search without killing the web it depends on? That question is the heart of the entire story. The web is not a magic well. Information does not simply appear. Somebody writes the article. Somebody investigates the company. Somebody tests the product. Somebody records the tutorial. Somebody documents the bug fix. Somebody interviews the expert. Somebody sits through the court hearing. Somebody builds the database. Somebody pays the reporter. Somebody edits the story. Somebody hosts the website. AI search feels instant because it hides the labor behind the answer. But the labor is still there. If answer engines take too much value without returning enough value, the information supply gets weaker. That is not an ethical slogan. It is a business reality. Bad information supply leads to worse answers. Worse answers lead to lower trust. Lower trust leads users away. So the answer engine has to support the source ecosystem somehow. This may become the biggest difference between the companies that survive and the companies that a cheap answer engine can scrape, summarize, and grow fast for a while. A durable answer engine needs relationships, rights, and trust. That is why publisher deals matter. That is why revenue sharing matters. That is why attribution matters. That is why lawsuits matter. The drama is not just legal noise. It is the process of inventing a new contract for the internet. The old contract was built around clicks. The new contract may be built around usage, citations, licensing, and answer influence. Nobody has perfected it yet. Google is under pressure. Perplexity is under pressure. OpenAI is under pressure. Publishers are under pressure. Everyone sees the same thing. The user wants the answer. But somebody has to fund the world that produces the answer. That tension will shape the next decade of search. If Perplexity handles it well, it could become a trusted middle layer between users and sources. If it handles it poorly, it could become a symbol of everything people fear about AI companies. That is the reputational fork in the road. A company can be seen as a guide. Or the difference may come down to how it treats the people who create the information it uses. This is why the Google comparison cuts both ways. Google became huge by organizing other people's content and sending traffic back. It still faced criticism, but the traffic was the defense. Perplexity organizes and summarizes other people's content, but the traffic return is less obvious. That makes the defense harder. Citations help. Partnerships help. Payments help. But the final answer will be measured by whether publishers feel they can survive in the new world. If they cannot, they will fight. And if enough high-quality sources fight, the product suffers. That is the hidden weakness of every answer engine. It looks like a technology business. It is also a media business. And media businesses are never simple. There is one last future worth imagining. Imagine a young person 10 years from now. They do not remember when search meant opening 10 links. They grew up asking full questions. They expect sources to be summarized. They expect follow-up questions. They expect the system to compare options. They expect it to know context. They expect it to help them add. To that person, old Google search may feel like a phone book. Useful sometimes, important historically, but not the center of life. That is the future Perplexity is betting on. A future where searching feels like extra work. If that future arrives, the company that trained users to ask first will have a chance to become extremely powerful. But if Google trains users just as well, or better, the challenger may become part of the story rather than the winner of the story. That is the uncertainty. And that uncertainty is exactly why this fight matters. Google search was one of the most stable habits in digital life. Now it is being questioned, not by a normal search engine, not by a slightly cleaner results page, not by a privacy pitch alone, by a new idea. The internet should answer you. Perplexity did not invent every piece of that idea, but it packaged it in a way people understood. Ask a question, get an answer, check the sources, go deeper if you want. That is simple. That is memorable. That is dangerous. Because the most dangerous products do not feel complicated. They feel obvious after you use them. Google once felt obvious. Of course, you would search the web this way. Of course, the best results should be ranked. Of course, the clean box was better than a messy portal. Now Perplexity wants its own version of obvious. Of course, you would ask in normal language. Of course, the answer would be summarized. Of course, sources would be attached. Of course, you would ask follow-ups. Of course, you would skip the clutter. If that becomes obvious, the old search page loses some of its magic. And once a product loses magic, it has to compete on utility alone. Google is still incredibly useful. But for the first time in a long time, usefulness is being redefined. That is the real ending of this story. Not that Google is dead. Not that Perplexity has already won. Not that AI search is perfect. The real ending is that search is no longer settled. A company built around answers has forced the most powerful search company in the world to rethink what search should be. That is already a victory. The rest of the story will be written in the habits of users. Every time someone opens Perplexity instead of Google, the story moves one sentence forward. Every time Google improves AI search, the story moves again. Every time a publisher sues or signs a deal, the story changes. Every time an advertiser tests a new format, the business. Every time a student learns to ask instead of search, the future gets closer. This is not a clean revolution. It is a slow rewrite. The old map is still on the wall, but a new map is being drawn over it. And the company holding one of the sharpest pens is Perplexity. Maybe it kills Google search. Maybe it forces Google search to become something else. Maybe it becomes the premium answer layer for professionals. Maybe it gets swallowed by a bigger assistant war. Maybe it becomes a platform. Maybe it becomes a warning. But whatever happens, it has already asked the question that changes everything. What if the best search result is not a link? What if it is the answer?